How's it going, everybody? JT here on behalf of the eFinance Daily General Discussion on our Ethereum. And thanks again, once again, to the EV Mavericks for letting us use their beautiful house here on Discord to host our podcast. This is podcast number 116 of the Doots Live, blasting out to you on two handles on X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We are super stoked today, June 27th, 2025, to have Afo, and Matt from the Greenpill Dev Guild. Say hello, my friends.
Hello, my friends.
Oh my gosh. There's our dad joke of the day. We got it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Matt and Oppo, for joining us. So I met Matt a long time ago on Reddit. Next Level Fantasy is his username on Reddit. We've been friends across the ether now for going on several years, and I believe we met together for the first time last year in ETH Denver in person, in the flesh. Matt and his crew over at the Greenpill consortium sponsored us to come in and do some barbecues. So I represented the EV Mavericks. We had the A word on hand, and I know Logri the Bard probably got some barbecue at that moment too. So I've been a friend, and you've been a friend with Kevin Owaki and Afo. I'm sure you've been a friend with Kevin Owaki for a number of years, and the Greenpill keeps trucking along. Today is all about Greenpill Dev Guild, and let's just kick it off right there, Matt. If you want to go ahead and take a lead on introducing yourself, and then Afo, you as well, and then let's get into this. Let's find out about the Greenpill Dev Guild.
Nice. Obviously, I'm screwing it up immediately. I'm unmuted on the Discord, right?
Yeah, unmuted on Discord.
Right, smooth start. But let me just make sure.
We're good.
Yeah. So within the Dev Guild, I'm just a community lead. I'm not an engineer or anything. Yesterday in the daily thread, I kind of described myself as a master of none glue guy. I think that's a pretty accurate interpretation of it. But yeah, I'm a steward of the Greenpill Network, the Writers Guild, and the New York City chapter as well. And Alpha is really the main man to talk to when it comes to Dev Guild stuff.
Afo, let's hear it.
That was needed. Apologies. So yeah, I'm also steward of the Greenpill Dev Guild, as well as a steward in the network. I've been actively involved in the Regen space for the past few years now. Before that was more Web 2 based as a Web 2 engineer. But yeah, the Dev Guild is kind of it's a space, a community of builders, and actually together to build Regen projects and support Greenpill chapters and the Regen community at large. But yeah, excited to be here.
Afo, your microphone was muffled up just a little bit, just to let you know. But Afo, you mentioned you were doing some Web 2 stuff previous to getting into the Regen space. Did you do anything in just the regular crypto space developed there before finding out about the regenerative crypto economics movement? Is this mic still going? Mike still working on it? Matt?
Yeah, I'll take it. I realized I didn't even introduce myself. Can you tell I'm media trained? My wife wouldn't be appalled if she was oh yeah, I do that. Don't even worry about anything I do. So I guess a little bit of context, because I came into this space really at a left field, and in a past life, for basically my entire adult life after college, I was a professional fantasy sports player. So through college, I was very buttoned up, white collar type of guy, and then I graduated and was like, I don't think I want to do this. So yeah, I definitely went down from the degen to regen path, and started researching blockchain more broadly, and then eventually kind of stumbled into the public good side of things and was really drawn in by that. And Greenpill podcast, and then eventually it kind of fractaled out into the broader regen public goods funding space. And I've only been in the space since last March. That was the first I showed up at a Greenpill New York City meetup, and I'm just, I burned the escape ships, and I'm just, I'm all about this. So
you took everybody's money at the office water cooler and walked away and decided to do something completely different. Like you went from sports betting and like team building to like crypto betting and team building, and now you're regenerating. Afo, did you get your microphone figured out?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I see my
Awesome. Go ahead. Let's go back. Let's go back again. My original question to you is: you came from kind of like the normie world, so to speak. Did you go straight to regenerative crypto economics, or was there any steps in between in your blockchain building experience?
For me, it was first around. So my Web2 experience was around like AR building, so building industrial AR headsets, and mainly I was on the website building the video chat platform and the authoring platform where you could create conditional workflows.
Nice.
So then when I got into the Web3 space, I was very curious to explore AR with IoT and blockchains and kind of how you can kind of Web3, Web 3.0 technologies. And initially I worked on some generative art projects. So kind of like art blocks, if you're familiar with highlight.xyz. And I was working on building basically a interface. Well, there's a couple projects, but the main one I'll mention was one where I worked on the team where the idea was to take people's art, that they collected, their NFTs, music NFTs that they collected, and then create a generative output based on the aspects of that, music, whether it's like genre, the artist, etc., and kind of build a generative art piece based on that. And yeah, so that was kind of my initial exploration. And then I was always into Greenpill, watching the podcast. And then, when they launched the network, I joined the Discord and then started to participate in more activities.
Yeah, and once upon a time, I used to edit their podcasts and videos and stuff like that. I did a bunch of
that's why I first saw UJT, and your videos were I loved your videos. They're gold. I would always share them to people. I shared them with my parents because I was like, okay, this is digestible. It's not too long, and so. Yeah.
I try to be like the old man oatmeal of crypto. I want to kind of explain things that a broader audience can understand. And I was very happy to be commissioned to do a series of 8 videos for Kevin Owaki back in the day, and I'll never forget that experience. And we covered everything: the Moloch, defeating Moloch, and the what is there 7? There's a bunch of them, but it was Bentoism. Yeah, 7 forms of capital, just like stuff about civil resistance. How does quadratic funding work? How does quadratic voting work? Let's just say I had enough of a budget to get a little bit silly in all the right ways and hope keep people's eyeball. And there's some of the most successful videos on that channel, and I'm really proud of that work. And I also just really dig what they're trying to do, which I think a lot of us want to learn how to do and maybe don't know what tools are needed, and that's where you guys come in, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think the Dev Guild definitely serves a unique purpose in given the fact that blockchain is a very technically tech-driven space. So I think Dev Guild is very vital to serve that purpose, to bridge the technology and make it adaptable for local communities and the different chapters within Greenpill.
Absolutely. And there's a little graphic that was shared out ahead of the call that I can throw on the screen here for people that are watching. By the way, this is Afo and Matt from Greenpill Dev Guild. They work within the Ethereum ecosystem for crypto regenerative economics, and they are tool providers for you if you're interested in getting into doing something with your time and your talent and your treasure to do give some good back into the world. And so this graphic here was shared. You want to walk us through this real quick?
Yeah, I think we could start with the bottom layer, blockchain layer. We like to say, we build bottoms up in our space. So start there. So just to give a little bit of context, zoom out a little bit about what this is. So this is outlining the Dev Guild's stack, kind of the tools that we build across different layers within the blockchain ecosystem. Starting from hardware down, next level to protocol, and more social reputation identity layer, and then the app layer. So really how we view this stack, and this is all kind of come together, kind of a stack that's naturally been pieced together over the past year or so from the different initiatives and projects we've been exploring, and now really trying to congeal it into a strong stack that feeds into each other, intertwines, and has a lot of net positive effects on doing one thing helps affect the other in a positive manner. But yeah, so starting with the blockchain layer, and then I'll pass over to Matt to talk a little bit more about the squad staking. But we got squad staking, which is basically staking Ethereum, but it's doing it with a squad. So it's taking that 32 ETH and splitting it amongst multiple people to be validating. And what we're trying to pursue there is with Obol, who has this great DVT technology, which enables you to do squad staking, is find a way to like have squad staking feed into public goods, to where you have the yield that you generate, a percentage goes into funding public goods. And it's something that maybe with this like one squad isn't a crazy amount of funds, but given the network effects and the amount of people that we have within the Greenpill community and the Regen community at large, being able to scale that up could build a sustainable like source of revenue for public goods, and help to give a little bit of a cushion to right now is like no cushion, and just pretty like bare bones, and having to deal with like funding in this space. So yeah, I'd love to pass over to Matt to share some more thoughts.
Yeah, I think at the core it's just like grant funding is all fine and dandy, but it's just not that. I mean, you can sustain yourself just on grants, but like it's not healthy. You don't really want to do that. And truthfully, people, the broader space will they view it as charity. Even if the work you're doing is a true public good and it's truly benefiting Ethereum and the world at large, it's still, it's a bit iffy. It's like, that's kind of not like you kind of want to be plugging different money Legos together to kind of build sustainability over time. So yeah, I mean, DVT technology is awesome. Actually was reading a governance post recently that was kind of looking at the uptime of Obol squads relative to other areas that Lido delegates to. And I think the DVT uptime is substantially higher. So it depends how many people you have in the squad, how many members actually need to be up at a time. But yeah, the basic gist is it just makes it much easier to have uptime. But the main thing that we're getting into is through the Lido CSM. So you deploy on testnet, you show sufficient uptime, you get a credential, and then once you have that credential, you can kind of get in line to the Lido CSM line. You got to put up like 1.5 ETH as a bond, but the long and short of it is Lido has a ton of ETH, as we're all aware, and I don't even think that they don't want to be in charge of staking at all. So that's one avenue that they kind of go to spread it around and like get it staked. So yeah, they delegate it, and the yield generated, we set up a splits contract. So it's spread around between the members of the squad itself. I think there's a tiny hunk goes to Obol. I think 10%, give or take, goes back to Lido. And then the main thing that we're trying to really scale at this point is have another hunk that goes to a public goods funding wallet. And the main thing also is you can be on 5 squads on one piece of hardware. So you can kind of look at the economics of it. And again, you need the ETH to be delegated to you, but the economics are actually pretty decent, assuming you can kind of scale, get on your 5 squads. Like, you should be in the black pretty quickly. And again, as we scale it out, we're really looking to onboard a ton of different public goods projects, probably through Regen Coordination, which is an initiative that's Greenpill, ReFi DAO, and then also like Bloom Network, BioFi, Earth, and a bunch of others. But yeah, we're officially looking to scale that out and get people to get some more hardware, and yeah, hopefully it'll turn into some level of sustainability.
So this is a single revenue source, and it's basically saying if we cooperate, then there's more money to be made, and we're going to skim some of the additional profit, and we're going to use that to sustainably fund public goods, right?
Yeah.
I've written about a few other things either on my blog or recently a post on Finance just yesterday about other ways you could probably use for revenue sources, right? I mean, obvious examples would be things like you could just make a lottery system, and then the profit from the lottery is skimmed. People are happy to lose money playing for personal gain at high stakes. That's what meme coining is really all about, right? So you could build some type of just like Mega Million lottery type of system and skim profit from there. You could do things with reputation systems that I see in the stack here, right? Where you could give people, it might not be transferable because it's reputation, but it can still be tokenized. It could still be on chain, represented on the ledger. And you could use that as stake in something like an eigenlayer AVS system for, say, like, look, in lieu of having to have 30 ETH to be, delegated to you, you could have this monetary value and come in reputation, right? And that would be compatible with like Symbiotic or Eigenlayer, right? As long as you give it a sort of monetary equivalent, right? A numeric equivalent it can use for its logic. Other ones that I've said are basic things where you find someone else and you save money on someone else's costs, then you skim the difference in order to pay for public goods. Common one for me would be figuring out tax reduction strategies, offering it through DeFi, and then skimming some of the savings from basically making the local government pay for the public good funding instead of the users as charity. I think there's a lot more to explore on both the revenue sources and in your stack here than has been covered today, right? So, how entrenched in this is? How much bandwidth do you have? Is this something you're open to expand? Is this something that you'd like the community to get involved with? At what layers, right? What parts of this are open?
Yeah, absolutely. And then it also, like, we're here representing the Dev Guild, but we're also stewards of Greenpill Network. So when it comes to revenue generation, like the Genesis squad that we set up within the splits contract, the public goods wallet that we're funding is the network wallet. So I think the answer is 100% yes. I think it's more so within the network's perspective. And 100% agree with you that, yeah, there's not like, this is the solution. This is how we build sustainability. It's just like multi-mechanism. Many of these things kind of stack together, and then eventually they'll compound into something that you can kind of live off of. But yeah, for sure, would love to jam with you on that and figure out how we can kind of...
Well, you'll have a chance, right? There's pick one of those topics, we can expand on it. You could talk about some of the tax avoidance things. I have a Logri work token thing we could talk about. I've got this Logri loan system I heard about yesterday we could talk about. I have an old post on monetizing honesty that talks about how to quantify honesty in a way that makes it provably scarce and therefore suitable for staking. And so basically, instead of having the time cost of money, if you don't have the actual money there, then it's all profit, right? So it's... there's economic advantages to trust and without having to use provably scarce money as the source of trust for something at stake. And so if we can capture some of that for public good, that sounds like a win for everyone, right?
Yeah, this is Logri the Bard from Tokenomics Explain. He's a technical interviewer on the show. I wanted to we got to get you guys linked up with Logri because he'll have different ways of putting together some of these Legos of Regen, and so the squad staking thing. I just want to rewind just back to that just for a second, then we'll move forward. So the squad staking thing is like a Greenpill guild in a certain city or whatever could combine their ETH together, and they could work together if they don't have the ability to get an entire node themselves, or they could just keep contributing money to that and eventually get some back out to the guild beyond the profitability of it. Does some of that squad staking revenue then work to the larger organization for some of the bigger efforts that are going on? Am I following that correctly?
Yeah, so we could pool our own ETH together, but the main plan initially is through this Lido CSM. So it's being delegated ETH from Lido.
Gotcha.
So instead of having to pool together 32 ETH, it's just you get the credential to prove that you have sufficient time, and then all you need to do is put up 1.5 as a bond.
There it is.
1.5-ish as a bond.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, that's achievable. Today's prices.
20% of the yield within the splits contract is going to the Greenpill Network wallet.
Excellent.
That's at least the first.
Let's move on up the branch here. The Allo Alliance. So Allo was this. This was.
I just want to say,
yeah.
More things on squad staking. Yeah, just to chime in, I think one of the also most integral parts of squad staking is the hardware, because The hardware enables not just being able to scotch stick with Opal, getting the hardware like a DApp node enables, to do rocket pool. You could do Gnosis
There
staking.
we go.
There's all these new opportunities that are rising. So to me, with squad staking, a lot of it I look at as first mission is to get hardware, decentralize the hardware, and get it in as many chapters and locales as possible, especially in like developing, countries within, Africa, within Asia, et cetera, where they could benefit from having these nodes, create community centers around these nodes, start accruing funds. I know I recently shared on Greenpill, like in Nigeria, they just got access to Starlink. That's huge because that enables to now like have reliable internet to then be able to run a node to then start pulling in funds that then when we start talking about the Allo Alliance and allocation mechanisms, that could tap into how those funds are then distributed to the community to, for different use cases. So just really wanted to highlight the hardware side of things.
That you mentioned Africa. I listened to the Bankless podcast with the CEO of Tether, talking about the impact of stable coins in Africa, in particular, like the amount of money velocity is just flying around. Well, the one of the things that they were talking about were these. I think they said kiosks or something that they produce and distribute down there that are like solar powered. I don't know. I feel like the Regen movement really does a pretty good job focusing on some of those areas of the world, and that's really cool to hear that there's some alignment on that. Okay, we good? You want to go up the tree, Allo Alliance? Yeah, let's go up the tree here.
Yeah. So next up, we got the Allo Alliance, and to speak to what's her name? Was it
Logree the Bard?
Logree the Bard. Definitely like what we're outlining here is kind of things we've been working on within the stack, but there's definitely more within that. Ideally, even the stuff when we start talking about the capital allocation mechanisms, things that you mentioned could put, I could see connecting to some of those things. So definitely want to highlight that we're just focused on squad staking because it's something that we have the bandwidth for, and something we've been involved in for a bit.
Okay.
So yeah, next up we got the Allo Alliance. Go ahead.
Yeah, hit it.
Okay, cool. So the Allo Alliance, this gets into more. This is less of a specific project or initiative that we're actively, like the Dev Guild is leading. What the Dev Guild's leading here is, like, I'd say, the incubation, a space for allocation builders. So you're building capital formation and allocation tools. A lot of it ties into the Allo protocol, Allo Capital within that ecosystem. And really the idea is to have these mechanisms such as cookie jars, which is to simply be able to access funds, like taking cookies from a jar on some recurring basis, from streaming with like flows, or what Graven's working on with flow state, as well as then conviction voting with like gardens and things of that nature. So the idea here is to have these different allocation mechanisms and help develop them and incubate them, because as builders, there's a lot of interoperability that's needed amongst our tools, because in order for communities to be able to use them well, so they're not having to sign in multiple platforms and use, kind of have to track things in multiple places. So I think the Alliance is really, first right now, we're in an initial phase of just like sense making, kind of really, I'd say the North Star is GG24 and seeing what we could come together and build as a community of builders. But to kind of talk about how it ties into the blockchain layer, the idea, right, is that you have the squad staking, start accruing funds, right? Where do those funds go and how do you allocate those funds? So the idea is, like, with these allocation mechanisms such as conviction voting or cookie jars, you can put those funds there and then have the allocation mechanism be driven by what we'll talk about in the next layer above, which is the social layer. But that's kind of the idea of how the blockchain layer feeds into the protocol allocation layer.
And okay, the social layer, Greenpill, a mini app that enables the accumulation of Greenpill and refi reputation. Okay, what's this about?
Yeah, so Greenpill, and then I'll pass over to Matt to talk more about it. Greenpill is kind of started, I'd say, from the Regen token. Actually, never was launched, but I remember on Farcaster there was this movement around Regen where you could start kind of collecting badges for different things that represent your regenerative activity. And then within the Greenpill context, started ideating around, well, how do we track things that are Greenpill related, as well as we're trying to also figure out governance at the network level. How do we figure out weighting? How do we determine, what weight one person gets compared to another based on different things such as attending workshops, attending meetings, donating, etc. So Greenwell is really focused initially on Greenpill to kind of validate and build a formula around um, how to kind of measure green productivity. And we're keeping it focused within the green pill niche because when you start expanding context, it gets harder to do things well. And I think the idea with Greenwell is to create like a infrastructure, like a methodology around how you could measure impact and the different inputs we use that then could be valuable for other communities. But right now, it's simply just a Guild XYZ website that you can access. Check your, if you have roles such as donating or, attending calls. And then from there, we're currently already using it for a couple network related things, such as our Gov Guild Garden, where you could put conviction on proposals that people make. And as well as I think a few other places we gotta look to use it. But yeah, Matt, we'd love to pass it over to you to Cameron.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid recap of that. I think maybe I'll just branch into like the future thoughts where initially it's very much proof of concept within Greenpill, like measuring contributions specifically for governance weighting decisions.
It's so hard, right? Like that's like the real. It's so hard because you've got the idea of really wanting to do good things and then provably doing them, right? And how do you express that into a token back, for the people who are doing the helping hand sort of funding for it? And yeah, this is a big thing it's like probably the hardest thing to qualify or quantify is like effort. Sweat.
Yeah. And this is really kind of going off on a bit of a tangent, but there is experimentation happening within the Dev Guild and within other chapters of using tools like Coordinate and Collaborate and Colony and these other things that are part of the puzzle for like measuring contributions within the individual chapters and guilds. But yeah, it's just super complicated. And then eventually after, this successfully works within the Greenpill ecosystem, like it could branch out just into any and all kind of regenerative on-chain stuff, like retiring eco credits. Do you have GLM locked? Are you allocating your GLM rewards, give power, GTC staking within the GG rounds, like all the different regen tokens? Are you holding USD Glow? Impact staking is a new thing that there's just an episode on the Crypto Altruist podcast that was pretty sweet. So yeah, it's like bottomless. I mean, I just opened up my notes because I haven't looked at. I have like a doc that I just share stuff, but like the Danny Ryan POAP ship or whatever it was called, like to an extent that's kind of the public good like there's so much, so eventually it'll like really kind of become an overly complicated mishmash of like you've scaled to an extent within like the reputation that you've given out, and then you can kind of look at what those other wallets are actually doing and kind of build off from there. But yeah, I just that's like way down the line. But yeah, reputation is super important.
Yeah, it's difficult to tackle some of this. How do you tokenize like?
What do you plan to use that reputation system for? Like, how can we get more out of that once it's there? And what's the basis for it, right? So reputation is a kind of amorphous thing to most people, right? So how do you put a number on it? And then what can we use that for?
Yeah, it's tough. Please insist.
Yeah, I think to like kind of respond to that, I think it's like that's why we're focusing on Greenpill right now, because it's a smaller context window, and if you expand it too much, it becomes way harder to do this in a way that feels like people are gonna respect the quality. So I look at it more of like figuring out the methodology and kind of observing the ways to like how governance is built over time and how people how different inputs come on chain, and how then in the future when a new community is forming, you could kind of already bootstrap them with some of these inputs that makes it easier to track. So I would say like right now I think it's really focus on the Greenpill context and using it for governance within the network. Like we are currently in a phase, I would say inflection point, where we're looking to um, enshrine more official, structure within the network. There's kind of been a lot of things that aren't enshrined and roles, responsibilities, etc. And then to do that initial election, I'm actually so grateful that we even have Greenville in its current state. Like it's not like perfect, it's but it's already gives us a allow list of, active stewards, contributors within the ecosystem that
So
we
it's a
know.
threshold system right now. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
here we just have a hash set, if you will, of addresses tied to
Mhm.
identities, and we say like, okay, here's your whitelist. You don't have a numeric score on it.
No, yeah. Like I would say like long term I'd probably lean more towards badging and then having maybe you have a set of badges gives you access to certain things or rather than like getting into like a leaderboard type of scenario. Because I think that
Well,
sometimes
I'm just thinking about. I guess I'm going in a totally different direction. Of can we use like that if we were to numericize it, if we were to quantify it in a way that makes it scarce, can we use it for a credit system? Can I borrow against it? Right? Can we make it? Can we make reputation economically valuable for you in DeFi so that it's not as though you can walk away, sure, but then you burn other opportunities, right? You're burning APR if you default on your promises, right? Can we use it as collateral, basically? Can we use it as something of economic value in order to create a sort of flywheel of honesty and contribution to a refi ecosystem to turn that into a viable occupation, especially in lower income parts of the world?
Yeah, Matt,
what you just said reminded me of something. I can't remember what the name of the protocol is, but there's an under collateralized lending protocol that utilizes some sort of reputation system. Again, I think there was a Crypto Altruist podcast episode.
It's called the U.S. banking system.
I was gonna say, yeah, like every credit card is basically uncollateralized lending based on a credit score. So we've got these credit agencies that are issuing some score. Like we could have the equivalent of a credit score on chain, but it wouldn't be possible to use not impossible, but if it was purely on chain, it's not able to go to the court of the jurisdiction where the person resides and force some type of clawback, right? So that makes it much more prone to scams, and that means that whatever you're using for your credit, for your collateral, really needs to be solid and not something that can be gamed or easily re-earned without essentially losing as much money, what Iwaki would call forgery resistance, right? But losing as much money, either an opportunity cost or through like lost rolls or something, right? But some type of opportunity cost, you have to be able to lose more than you would gain through dishonesty. If you can get that threshold worked out, then you can have a difficult to game, non-profitable way of generating. You just need to make sure that being honest is always the more profitable venture, right? And being dishonest would cost you more than you gain. And once you have that, you can get a numeric score on chain. You can potentially use that for some type of on-chain credit that could be respected more broadly. What I'd like to say is that we could use that for either lending or for some type of stake or something in order to generate yield off of not money, right? Off of something provably scarce. That's either you gave up money to get in, as in you donated money, then it's not yours, and so we give you this reputation instead. Or you could have exploited something, and so we use this for like bug bounties or something, right? Where people, white hat hackers, can look at how much they gave up by not hacking it, right? We could give them some share of that as credit. You see these provably scarce mechanisms that are kind of like hard money, but don't exist in a transferable sense that we can spend. So how can we use that in order to create a flywheel of honest and productive action and build a refi economy using these incentives?
That's the $1 million question. Got to get it. It's coming.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just so hard to do, I think Loger, you bring up all the right questions, trying to get all the wheels and the cogs running together. We
have all the smart contracts to generate a stable coin, right? There's 1 million stable coins already.
It's just a matter of will. Yeah.
A maker clone, you just have to change out the collateral, right? and you have to get people to be willing to buy and hold it. So there's some amount of like liquidity farming. So there's some amount of cost to every dollar outstanding. But you get my point of if you want to use carbon credits as collateral and then also reputation as collateral or something, partner with one of the projects that's trying to monetize the carbon credit, like Klima, right? And then see if you can get them to add this type of Greenpill reputation score or some other credit bureau that we create in this ecosystem and bring that together. I think we have all the smart contract like functionality. It's a matter of getting ecosystem acceptance behind the idea and then getting momentum behind it economically.
Let's
I
look
think
at
the human coordination. I think the hardest thing with everything is coordinating humans. So like I think a lot of these ideas in theory make a lot of sense, but applying them is so hard because you're having to do with humans and get them to view these things in a way that it feels neutral and unbiased, and which is downright impossible
and
So that's why, like,
consistent. The
Yeah,
follow
consistent.
through.
yeah, like
This is a
like
10-year thing,
that-
not a month. It's not an allocation in Epoch 8. It's like for the next 10 or 15 years, how to like to use
Yep.
Logre's word flywheel effect.
So I just think with a lot of things you're mentioning that you kind of got to see, like, the tech might be there, but even when it comes to reputation and identity, I don't feel like the tech's fully there on the privacy identity side. I still think there's a lot of work to do there to create stronger
Yeah,
artifacts of identity.
We really do
Right.
need that. I mean, even not just for refi purposes, but for you
Mhm,
see
for
AI.
everything.
You see AI slop everywhere, right? And the best
Yeah.
defense we have against AI slop is a provably scarce digital identity. So if you solve that, then at least you can only get rugged 9 billion times as a protocol or something, right? Because right, like that's a start. If everyone can walk away with $1 and scam you once, like that's still an upper bound on what we stand to lose. We can eventually overcome that. We can sift through that and find the more honest people, and then they'll be the ones that the system will aggregate towards over time. So but currently, I've seen attempts where people are going to use their passport for digital identity. I've seen attempts where people are using on-chain history. I've seen attempts where it's attestations from Coinbase and other major institutions. I think that the approach that I've talked about with Kevin Nowacki again is this kind of like multi-headed hydra, where you use a conglomeration of many signals, and then we have something like a credit bureau that emits a credible reputation score, and then that would accumulate. That's your forgery resistant score. It's your humanness. It would be an up only type of thing as long as you're being honest and generating more information about yourself. And so everyone just kind of graduating into the world. As more things come on chain, we'd have more on-chain history about everyone as they come into the world. By the time they're like reaching adulthood, there's some credible baseline of like humanness to them. And then they'd have this baseline reputation they could use to, again, bootstrap that into a flywheel in order to draw 7 billion people into the refi ecosystem if they opt in.
And that's why ZK and privacy is so key, because one of the key things we all complain about Web 2 is the data rights, and kind of access, everything's public and all your data is like highly visible. So I think ideally for a lot of things, we have to have zero knowledge. Like we need these artifacts enshrined within at the protocol level, blockchain level, to enable in my opinion, to be feasible. Because I just think if we create a whole social credit system that's tied to public actions, I find that's a very slippery slope, potentially to walk down, where you could kind of, really dox anybody, which I guess you could already do in a lot of ways. But
looking at the top of the tree here to round out the tree, so to speak, Green Goods, a streamlined and user-friendly platform for documenting ecosystem restoration work. So Green Goods, let's go into that.
Yeah, and that's the one last thing on the Greenpill, because I got to mention how it ties into the Allo Alliance, right?
Perfect.
So the idea with Greenpill having that social badging scoring system is that could drive allocation, right? That could drive access to the cookie jar being on that allowed list. That could affect the weight you have in the streams, that amount of streams that flow to you on a monthly basis, et cetera. So that's kind of the idea here, is to have that drive allocation based on funds that accrue from squad staking and other sources as well.
Yeah. So So there's something like money in, allocation, money out is basically the stack going up, right? You have money in at the squad staking level. You have an allocation layer just above that, governed by something set by a whitelisted, set by Greenpill, and then money out through green goods.
Green goods is more impact in. It's more ingress of impact that translates to social proof and reputation, but then affects allocation. Then money out, I would say, if that makes sense.
Fair enough.
You know, we heard the two words earlier, and I feel like we still. I hate to say this, but I feel like the regenerative crypto economics always gets kind of it wants to be public goods, but everybody's thinking charity. They're thinking handouts and all that, and we got to get that. There's got to be this mental switch where actually, if we want to really do a proof positive with crypto regenerative stuff, we need to do something better than what the government does with fiat in order to do something public goods. Does that make sense? We got to figure out a way to make the crypto shine in its effectiveness and its efficiency versus the dollar. And that's going to be kind of the galvanizing moment that kind of brings all of this
I don't think it has to be versus the dollar. Like I'm fine if we use dollars to pay for public goods. I'm fine if we use ETH. I think that
I agree.
Blockchain's a coordination technology, right? And we're trying to use the coordination technology to enable new positive outcomes that weren't possible without that level of coordination.
Well, I agree, Logri, except that the crypto public goods stuff always gets the stigma of, it carries the stigma of crypto in the first place, which is scam, right? That stigma. And then hold on, let me finish. And then the public goods, the air quote public goods thing just rings of being like a charity project. Whereas in the real world, people are fine donating to charities, and for some reason they think the government is extremely efficient at public goods, and they're not in many regards. And the scam still exists there. It's just in front of your face when you pay your taxes, how bad it can be in certain places. I think this is one reason why in Africa you're seeing a lot of success with these types of projects, because it's outside of the government. If we want to get wider adoption and acceptance and people piling in to develop, I think everybody needs to see like a proof positive case. It's undeniably efficient and great at what it does. And like Alpha was saying, like the coordination part is always the hardest part. That's all I was trying to say.
Even if you had evidence that was undeniably efficient, I still don't think most people would look at it and care. It just doesn't reach the attention threshold of 6 billion people.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So I think we need mechanisms that get through the sort of emotional wall using some lever of fear and greed and hope.
Yeah.
In order to get people into action, right? So either we're offering them opportunities and they don't care if it's charity. They're like, yeah, it's making the world a better place, but they don't care. I think there's several billion mercenary type personalities out there, right? That we need to somehow enlist into positive outcome causes. And then I think there's a much smaller minority of people that are, the Nixo types that were oceanographers or something, trying to save the whales before they got sucked into crypto because that wasn't working.
Poor girl.
Right. And hats off to them, but it is Sisyphean, right? Trying to fight human nature in that way. And so I want to be able to use that baseline, well-intentioned, energy in order to coordinate the larger swarming masses of mercenary personality types in order to, coordinate using this better coordination technology to enhance positive outcomes.
Very good. Yeah,
it's about aligning incentives. Even the biggest, to an extent, it does come to taxes. Like the concept of taxes are not bad. Taxes are good. People just don't like paying taxes that are used inefficiently. But even the biggest degen in the world, they could be utilizing protocols or even just utilizing Ethereum that's burning ETH, that's somehow to an extent funding protocol development. So yeah, a thought that I kind of wrote down for myself as well is I think within the public good space now, you're kind of seeing, I feel like we're in the depths of despair. Everybody's kind of bummed out. And the shift that you're seeing now, you see it obviously within Octane Epoch 8, that's entirely revolving around like Ethereum dependencies and the Ethereum infrastructure. But you also see it within Gitcoin as well, where I think the shift is like, okay, the Web3 public goods funding space is saying, okay, it's all fine and dandy that we have these climate rounds and that we're funding small scale projects and stuff, but maybe the way that we kind of have more eyes turn on us is by funding the protocol guilds of the world. And if people can see like, oh wow, protocol guild is about as important as you're going to get, how do they function? They function from public goods funding. How did Grow the Pie come to be? Public goods funding.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's, and then from the more legacy world perspective, what JT was saying is right. It's the crypto space thinks public goods funding is a bunch of hippies, charity, and the legacy world thinks it's scammy because it's related to blockchain. So you're kind of swimming upstream in two different respects.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My kind of thought with the legacy world is the end goal is to prove to have some sort of proof that using these Web3 public goods funding mechanisms is more capital efficient than governments.
Bingo.
And it's leading into the United Nations SDGs. Potentially it comes into the creation of the eco credit side of things, but yeah, it's a tough one.
I think
I do.
like
Good.
catch time real quick, because I think when we say they think we're scam, I think most people are not aware of the Regen space in public goods. I just think that's actually mostly most people. They aren't even aware of anything we've been doing in this space and the tools we're building. Like, they have no clue. And then so I think that's a key thing that we need to address. And then you mentioned, okay, I think I forgot the second point, but you're mentioning things around eco certs. I wanted to say something, but I just want to make that point, that I feel like there's a lack of awareness in our space, and that's even something that, like, within the dev guild with this regenerative stack, these infographics, I'm writing a series that's going to drop next week. We need to do a better job of telling our story and getting more enshrined within within the zeitgeist, within the kind of how people view things, and I think we could be very covert about it and come from the environmental side, come from the access in Africa to financial instrument side, all those, and kind of approach it in a way that's, we don't need to talk about anything blockchain related. I think kind of the issue here, I think a lot of times when we're trying to sell these tools, we start talking about the blockchains. We're not talking about the effects and the outputs they're having on local communities and the things they're helping improve, such as, with this tech, in Africa, it enables access to, stronger financial instruments, able to build savings, etc. These things that are super key to be able to build, strong societies. And I really think when we look at blockchains and crypto, it's kind of the established world of trying to replace the system, which that's kind of what drew me here. But I've learned so much about how blockchain and crypto is so much more applicable for the developing countries where they don't even have a system yet, where this could already just take over what is a non-existent or very corrupt system and be 10 times, 100 times better. I really think focusing on us going there and finding ways to bring the capital we have in our Western societies into developing countries via blockchain tech is kind of how I view things.
Appreciate Matt and Afo here from the Greenpill Dev Guild. Appreciate everybody piling in on the Discord. You're watching us 2 streams on X, YouTube, and on Twitch. Gentlemen, I've got to ask you, so there's 2 questions I have. When did you guys come together to start Greenpill Dev Guild? And to date, what is probably the most impactful person or project to come into your midst after that?
Okay, yeah.
I just showed up at a call because it's an open call and just eventually figured out how I can contribute, but I'll follow you, please.
Yeah, DevGo started as a survey sent in the Greenpill Discord, as you know, JT, to all the people that had the dev role in there, introduce yourselves. To send out the survey. Who wants to jam and talk, building tools. And then from there, it was a weekly call that we still had the same time. And then this was consistent, just every week. It was just a few people to start, 3 to 4 people. And then when Matt joined, it starts coming up to like more 5 to 10 people. And now consistently we have like, 10 to 15 people on our calls.
Nice.
So yeah, it's kind of where it started. And yeah, Matt, what was the second question?
I was just curious what projects out of the Dev Guild, what's probably been the most impressive result of this meeting?
Well, I guess I'll just show Green Goods because we didn't touch on that stack. So Green Goods is really, I would say that like so fundamental. The Dev Guild is built upon Green Goods. The reason being is that before it was called Green Goods, it was called Camp Green, which was an ETH Denver project, that, one of the first Dev Guild projects we did. Before that, it was an initial project called the Onboarding App, where we're like, let's create an onboarding app for like all Greenpill. So like initially it started very big dreams, and then it kind of scoped to like, okay, let's make it very simple and focus on like one thing, which is biodiversity and restoration work. So Green Goods, in essence, like how it plays into this stack, is a tool that is kind of the tool we want to get in the hands of local communities, and that's how they interact with blockchains and regenerative finance, to where they're capturing their biodiversity work, whether that's removing invasive species, planting new native species, removing litter, etc., and then capture that, have somebody approve that, and then tie that in, into attestation. Well, the back end, to give some context, is attestation built. So every action a person does in the app is an attestation. And then from that, be able to bundle those into eco-certs, hyper-certs, things of that nature, that then we could then sell to the more traditional markets and stuff. So like the two sides, right? The squad staking is accruing funds from the native side of, blockchains, Ethereum, and the app layer is meant to bring in both. So along the bar, you weren't wrong. Like actually, like it is meant to capture impact, but also from that impact, then bring in funds, right, that tie into the eco-certs, hyper-certs that people mint, tied to the different, aggregation of actions they do over time. And then that feeds into Greenpill by ideally having maybe a Green Goods badge or some type of score there that then drives allocation going down the stack.
Excellent. Anything else that you guys want to go over before we head on to the second half of the show? Where can people find you? Let's do that.
Oh yeah, massive social guys.
I can't. I know I've gotten into wrestling matches with the bot when I accidentally share a link, but I think maybe the easiest way to direct you to the Charmverse would be the Twitter account is @GreenpillDevs, and the link in there is the Charmverse. Charmverse is our main co-working space, and then on there, an invite to the Discord. That's really also our main home. Information about the open call that's every Tuesday, Luma, etc. Pretty much everything that you can boom. There you go.
Okay, cool. So yeah, @GreenpillDevs on the old X if you want to give them a follow and a like. And then check out all of the branches. They got all kinds of stuff on here. Charmverse.io looks like. Oh boy, they got all kinds of documentation. They got a whole calendar. If you want to get involved with Greenpill Devs, just reach out to them. And then, ETH Denver's coming around the pike. I don't know if you're still cleaning barbecue out of underneath your fingernails, but I cooked for the Dev Guild Airbnb last year, and there weren't a lot of complaints. So that's a start. So that's good.
Oh yeah, no, nobody. We finished that barbecue. It lasted a while. So thank you for that, JT. That was awesome.
Well, I heard I dropped off basically. I think I dropped off enough food. I think we fed probably 50 at the house, but I dropped off enough food for probably another 50. And I was told that actually got green-pilled over to another Airbnb. So technically on that trip, I did 4 barbecues.
Yeah. That sounds about right. Yeah.
We went to like another event, and we brought a bunch of trays. We asked, should we bring a bunch? Like, how much should we bring? They're like, just bring it all. I'm like, okay. I was a little, and I hate wasting food. We brought it all.
Yes.
And at some point, I walked over, and it's just gone. was gone in like 30 minutes. So.
No kidding. So
Yeah.
that's 100%. I didn't waste any food on that trip. In fact, when I was picking up my tools, you guys were all gone for the day. I went back to the Airbnb to pick up my tools. I told my Uber driver to come on in. I made my Uber driver a huge pan of food for he and his dad. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." And he said his dad is like disabled and they never cook. And I was like, "Oh, bro, no one goes hungry when I roll in town, man." So that warms my heart. I'm glad everybody enjoyed it. Well, good.
Yeah, word. Thanks, Logri, for coming. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't be strangers, stop by the EV Mavericks Discord at any time. We've got channels in there that you guys could share links to your events. And we're the Mavericks are really regenerative minded folks, a lot of very giving people. I always say time, talent, and treasure, pick two. You got to do two. So
it's an education focused DAO. So if you said a main concern of yours is that no one is aware of what you've done, well, that sounds like an education mission.
There you go. Yeah, well, we're hoping to bring some eyeballs and attention to what you guys are doing. We got quite a few people watching the stream on our 5 different channels right now. And you guys also have, like you were mentioning, you have your own Discord too. And, maybe you just want to learn more. You don't know what you can do. Well, I'll tell you what, you'll never do anything if you don't put one foot forward on that and go dive in. There's always a need. Yep. Somebody can use you over there. And let's get some positive vibes going in this space. All right.
Yeah, we're always open to builders, new engineers. I'm joining.
Very good. Yeah, there's plenty of there's so much talent out there, and it's just it's just one of those deals where if you're not sure, somebody's going to help you figure it out. I promise. They will put you to work. You may end up volunteering and doing more than you ever thought you were capable of. I mean, look at Matt. This is a guy that hasn't even been in the space for much more than a year. And you can tell because he looks perfect. He's not stressed out. He's not overweight. He thinks about that beard. He's got a baby now. He's thinking ahead about saving the planet. And, the crypto space hasn't done him in.
Full head of hair.
Yeah, and he's got a full head of hair. Look at that. I've only been in crypto for 10 years, and this is, it all slipped down the back. That was all, no genetics, all crypto, baby. That's what happens. No, I'm kidding.
I trimmed my nose hair this morning just to make sure I was ready. I was presentable. So I was telling you before, like, you saw me yesterday. It was a different vibe, but all right, I got to turn my camera on today. Honey, get me a shirt.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. All right, well, here we go. We're going to move on to the second half of our show. Afo and Matt, if you can stick around, that's great. We invite you to stick around for a color commentary. If you need to go, you can just do an Irish goodbye, and that'll be that. And with that, let's go ahead and dive on in to our Doots of the week. This is always a really fun time of the show. I love doing this right here. This is our 116th episode. Well, the weekly Doots live stream is all about showcasing the best of the week from the ETH Finance Daily Journal discussion on our Ethereum. It's a read-along reaction series, and if you want to follow along, head on over to dailydoots.com, designed and produced by our very own Henny Abu. Big thanks to Tricky Troll for capturing and curating each day's Doots, and the A-Word for curating this beloved weekly list. Subscribe to us on Apple or iTunes, whatever. Just search ETH Finance EV Mavericks. Dudes podcast also available on Libsyn, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. After the show, you can mint this episode at pods.media/EV Mavericks. And as always, if you know anybody that wants a piece of this action, make sure you send them my way. And with that, let's get right into our leaderboard. I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page just in case the totals have updated. Aiden Cairo rounding out the top 10 at 118, tied with Ethical Trade at 118. JS Tears at 119. Crypto Out Currency at 122. Hanny Abu moving on up to 132. Tricky Troll moving up to 158. Benito 2030 at 173, Logri the Bard at 213, Super Fizz at 226, and ladies and gentlemen, we have a new leader on our leaderboard for the first time, Harog at 227 Doots. Harog has been absolutely crushing it as of the last couple of years here, just incredible. We got a slew of events coming up. going on right now. Looks like where is ROU? That's not Roman. I can't even pronounce this. ROU. What country is ROU? Chat, help me out. ECC coming to Cannes, France. ECC week. Pragma. East Global. This is the big conference coming up. And then let's see, Naples, Italy is a Naples ETH. Hope I'm saying that right. Berkeley, USA, SPC, the Science of Blockchain Conference 2025, Pragma, New York, in New York City, August 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th. East Global is also there in New York at that time. The Web3 Lagos Conference in Lagos, that is Nigeria. That actually would be kind of interesting to go to, because I feel like Africa is just going bonkers on crypto right now. It's so cool to see, quite honestly. All right, good. There we go. Boom. Let's go right on over to our podcast. If you want to subscribe, there's all of our channels right up there. And coming up, Sid Powell from Maple Finance, Mike Rainbow from Rainbow Wallet, July 18th, although I think I might have to move him because I was told my wife is making me pay for a trip to Michigan. So that's going to be fun. Mark Mirabella from Insuro, July 25th, August 1st, Paul Berg from Sablier, Loring Harkness from Shutter Network, and one of my new favorite heroes out there on the old X and YouTube, Leo Lanza, August 22nd. I just recently did a post on him and using the Mavericks channel in mind. That guy deserves 100,000 followers on X. He's a little over 5,000 at this point. He does a really good job. I mean, he's got a little bit of everything for everybody in the Ethereum world, and I think he's just breaking things down in a way that is digestible and easy to understand. All right, here we go for our morning roundup for this week. Alexis Kef chimes in. Ethereum Frank the Tank gives us a price of $24.37. I don't even want to open it up right now. And $10.9 at the dismal ratio of 0.02. Our weekly haiku courtesy of JS Tears, Stables from the Outside, DeFi volume amplified, reference price glide. Wow. How does he do it, JS Tears? Your haiku of the week. Excellent job. Thank you so much. And our ship post of the week by Faru Zerker. That's a newer name. Let's see what their score is right at the moment, huh? Duder number 3 makes our ship post of the week because we always like to save the best for first. Ethereum's violent pumps are fueled by the tears of our Ethereum users. The tear tank is filling up, but not fast enough to hard boil the crab. We need April and May levels of drama, hysteria, and desperation for it to take off. So based on my state-of-the-art sensors, we'll reach those levels of pain by mid-July to consolidate a rally to 5K by mid-August. Okay, it is known, it is written. Giveth. Okay, very good ship post of the week by Faru Zerker. All right, moving on. CMonkey82 shares a cool validator consolidation tool and shares his process for securely upgrading withdrawal credentials. CMonkey writes, a couple of days ago, I posted a link to the Pectra CLI tool for air-gapped validator credential management and consolidation. I thought I'd share some notes from my experience with it. This is not intended as a replacement for carefully reading all the documentation. My air-gapped environment is Tails, so the only thing that persists are the files stored in persistent storage. With this configuration, here is the workflow. And there's some code and some stuff here I'm not going to read. If you want to check this out, head to dailydoots.com. You know what I'm going to say, and I know that Matt and Alpha would appreciate this. CMonkey82 is this OG from Ethereum Reddit for years. We went to Hawaii for HodlerCon a few years ago, okay? You know what he brought? His validator. He was like validating in the hotel room while we're supposed to be on vacation, but it wasn't even like a regular computer. I mean, I think he was like toying around with some like, I don't know. It was a very simple machine, but he had built this thing, and we're in Hawaii going, man, you are amazing. Validating from the hotel downtown Honolulu. Well,
Legend.
The definite legend. We were all just like, we're not worthy. And everybody's like, I'm missing attestations, but CMonkey82 is not. All right. Well, look, your ears are burning. User Next Level Fantasy, that's Matt right here, rounds up some Regen news. And according to Matt, the Octane Epoch 8 cohort was announced. Teams advancing Ethereum's roadmap in 4 areas: direct protocol improvements, shared infrastructure, open dashboards, data sets or studies, and finally, protocol level research and specification work. ASTA's Circuit Scan, Grow the Pi, Orbit DB, Powder. There's a whole host of different projects that are all within Octane Epoch 8. And that, I think, goes live as of June 11th. I think I read something like that. So it's coming up, or July 11th, sorry, coming up pretty soon. Somebody can help me out with that chat. You can put it up in the Doots podcast chat on Discord. It'll show up on the screen. Put the restream chat up here. Okay, very good. Greenpill Dynamic NFT campaign, he goes on, officially dropped from Atlantis. This is the first season. Turn the pill from red to green by completing bounties created by impact orgs around the world. Atlantis has been in a couple Octane epochs, and the Impact Miner Foundry Landscape app suite feels like a pretty important piece of the puzzle for onboarding people and incentivizing regenerative actions. For example, collaboration with the Solar Foundation. And there's a link there. Let's go check it out. All right. The tweet says, Solar Foundation, together we can, excited to launch our Solar Savings Circles collab with Nita Labs and somebody else to empower rural women with solar and productive appliances. We are also working with Atlantis P2P to amplify participants' voices by encouraging testimonials, ideas, and feedback. Very cool. Very, very cool. All right. Goes on from there. Ma Earth Community Mapping Leaning Lab, July 8th, with Cameron Ellison, who is the Field Science Director at Rainforest US. Hey, that's pretty cool. All right. Got all kinds of stuff. Community mapping. Cameron is passionate about exploring the connection between people and landscapes, blending pencil and paper participatory mapping with GIS or GLS, remote sensing, and emerging technologies. We'll explore philosophical aspects and practical applications of mapping and see how land stewards around the world can integrate some of these tools and practices into their initiatives. Man, there's so much going on. No one knows about it. And moving on, the crypto altruists have their June newsletter. NFA, a couple of token launches happening. Who knows, but definitely interesting experiments in incentivizing regenerative actions and tokenizing impact. Looks like an 8-hour DACC Berlin recording. Blockchain for Public Good newsletter by Decentralized Cooperation Foundation. Honestly, not sure where Allo Capital is headed, but if you're a capital allocation mechanism nerd, there's a bunch of interesting posts in the research forum. And there's a link here at research.allo.capital if you want to check it out. All right, nice job. Next Level Fantasy. User Lightfoot delivers. Man, I should ask you, is there anything you wanted to add to that post before we move on? Are you good?
No, I'm good. I think the one you didn't mention was the token engineering commons. A couple episodes. Would highly recommend that.
I did miss this. Okay, token engineering commons.
They're one of my favorite. They're one of my favorite organizations in the space, honestly, and like everything they put out is gold. So.
And a talk with Joshua.eth from Azos Finance exploring how stable coins can be backed by real world impact. Okay, so there we go. Token Engineering Commons. Oh, wow. And you can collect this apparently on the blockchain. That's nice. And then
Coconut Network is run by our buddy Wasabi, who's like an absolute OG legend in the space.
Excellent.
Huge fan of that. Huge fan of his. Shout him out.
And they've got this podcast right on X, so that's easy. Go check that out. Nice. All right. User Lightfoot delivers a RAI dollar update. Just the Treasury Secretary going on about stablecoins and RAI dollar hyping it up. Normal stuff, of course. Let's open up this link. Oh, it's excellent. Let's go to the original. Okay, RAI dollar. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent Yeah, Rye dollar is coming. Let's see. This is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on X. Recent reporting projects that stablecoins could grow into a $3.7 trillion market by the end of the decade. That scenario became more likely with the passage of the Genius Act. Nice. Yeah, that was a pretty big deal, a Genius thing. Nice job. A thriving stablecoin ecosystem will drive demand from the private sector for U.S. treasuries, which back stablecoins. This newfound demand could lower government borrowing costs and help rein in the national debt. Yeah, let's get that done. It could also on-ramp millions of new users across the globe to the dollar-based digital asset economy. It's a win-win for everybody involved. The private sector, the treasury, and the consumers. These are the fruits of smart pro-innovation legislation.
Here we go!
All right, good stuff. Nice job. All right, but back to the post. Back to the post. I lost it. Here it is. I clicked out of it, it looks like, didn't I? Didn't I? Yeah, I'll come back to it. All right, let's get back to it. Ding, 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 ding. All right. As an update, the Ride Dollar aims to launch in 6 to 8 months. Shortly after it does, 7% of its total token supply will be auctioned off in another altar, whatever that means, to competing bids of FLX. The winning bids FLX will be burnt. So High and Rye Dollar will both be having auctions that create significant FLX buy pressure while reducing the total supply. It's also now looking extremely likely that FLX will become stakeable for a share of RAI version 2 protocol revenue, while version 2 also enables some LSDs to be used as collateral. That's liquid staking derivatives. And there's a proposed FLX buyback with some of the recently recovered $1.5 million being discussed. Honestly, so excited about Rye and the Rye High Rye Dollar ecosystem, the Money God League. FLX is going to become so much more investable, and the price will reflect that, and that will be great for Rye. All right. And Lightfoot is a Deuter number 27 for this week. You know what? I didn't go Next Level Fantasy. You're climbing up that old Doots board. You're a Deuter number 20. That got you across the 20-yard mark, man. Congrats. I speak in yards with Matt. He's a big sports guy. All right. Big Wise Guy 55 helps us hold our conviction. I don't believe I have commented since the ETH finance days. All right. I have lurked, but let me share some personal conviction. ETH to 10K, easy peasy. ETH to 100K, a matter of time. ETH to $1 million? Maybe. But if we have the $1 trillion security initiative, I'm not concerned. War and bombing is not great, and my heart goes out to those who are suffering as a result. However, I don't think that takes true value away from what Ethereum provides by being the most secure and decentralized asset in the crypto space. I hope this brings some comfort amongst the, quote, looming war falling knife, unquote, for lack of a better term. It is easy to feel queasy short term, but don't lose sight of what Ethereum is capable of that nothing else can provide. Yeah. The only thing I would say is if you don't like the system, work around it. Stay true to your values long term and don't panic. You know, if war gets bad enough, there's nobody left to buy it anyway, including yourself. So let's just hope for the best.
When was this posted?
This would have been posted over this last week. This was Deuter number 2, Big Wise Guys. This is 5 days ago. So 5 days ago that was right after.
Yeah, it's a whole different world 5 days ago. Yeah, that makes.
Yeah.
Let's hope it stays the way it is right now.
Yeah. I don't even go off. We'll just keep on moving. It's such a everything's shitty in that regard. Harog gives us a warning on why you need to be using an ad blocker. All right, Harog's the top of our leaderboard, ladies and gentlemen. This is your number one Deuter. If you do not have an ad blocker in your browser, here's one more reason to install one. In the last few hours, the Cointelegraph website got hacked. And apparently, if you went to the site, a pop-up appeared which led to a Cointelegraph ICO airdrop, obviously fake, which then wanted to drain your wallet. As far as I understand, the website did not really get hacked, but an ad banner added malicious code to the website, which allowed the pop-up to appear. It is well known that ad banners can be a source to compromise your PC, as the ad delivery networks do not or cannot really check what they are delivering. This is called malvertising. Obviously, users with wallets are a great target for these types of attacks. I personally use uBlock Origin and Privacy Badger on my main browser. uBlock Origin has worked flawlessly for many years for me now, roughly 10 years. And before that, I used AdBlock Plus for many years. My router also has a simple ad blocking feature which protects devices and apps which do not support ad blocking. Ooh, that's kind of cool. As always, downloading a browser extension is something which needs to be well thought through. In essence, they are pieces of code which alter the behavior of your browser. If they are malicious, they can also be a source to get compromised. In the case of ad blockers, the choice is very clear, at least to me. You can also use a browser which already comes with a feature to block ads. Brave would be such a browser. Vivaldi and I think Opera also come with ad blocking included. And there's some sources on X that you can check out about the Cointelegraph stuff. Yeah. Bummer.
Shout out to Brave. I love Brave. It's so.
Yep. Shout out to Brave. I use it. I mean, some people are kind of frustrated with it for a variety of reasons, but it's like, you know what? You could always go back to the typewriter. I mean, you know, it's something. There's the original ad blocker. Just use a typewriter, you know, send shit in the mail. I'm such a smart ass. I don't mean that. I do. My buddy Patches from the Rocket Pool Discord is a big typewriter guy. I love. He's entertaining to me with that stuff. That's why I thought of that. But yeah, ad blocker for the win for sure at minimum, and Brave browser gets some love from the chat today. All right, user PA7X1 is a formidable FUD fighter. These are facts. I get it. Look at PA7X1 is a Deuter number 91 for this week. Amazing. Gish Gallup make a number of factually wrong statements without evidence or proof. Unfortunately, it's more time consuming to engage in disproving stuff with facts and data than it is to post bullshit every few days. This is how disinformation looks like nowadays anyway. It exploits this asymmetry. Almost all usage metrics are down only as the common cry of concern against Ethereum. PA7X1 says that's false in all accounts. Layer 1 gas is used at max levels historically and basically capped at the maximum set by the network at 36 million gas limit or 60 million target. Layer 1 transactions per second are also flirting with maximum levels, which is consistent with the above figure for gas. Blobs were capped for a long time at 3 months after releasing them. Now that target was raised to 6. We see them increase again. Layer 1 and Layer 2 transactions are literally at historic record and rising. Another piece of FUD. Most L2s don't generate any real revenue of size, and the only one, all the revenue goes to a company. All right, let's talk about the monthly revenue of L2s. All right. I'd say if ETH is going to make, here's another piece of FUD. I'd say if ETH is going to make a new all-time high, then the L2 tokens will be the canary in the coal mine and show a sign of life long before. Till then, there's no chance of any new all-time high for ETH. There's the FUD. PA7X1 responds, do not confuse L2s with their tokens. L2 tokens are nowadays just a governance token. Their tokenomics suck. It's just a voting right. It's unclear to me why they should be worth anything at all. That may change in the future, but not today. L2s, on the other hand, are thriving and growing as the charts above show. And then the other piece of FUD, many L2s are shutting down. All right. And then there's a link to L2beat.com. PA7X1 says, I mean, there's over 100 L2s at the moment, and the number keeps growing. For sure, this space will have to end up consolidating. That's what happens in a free market. Excuse me. But for the moment, this number has been up only, and then follows up with 4 different links. See, this is the problem. And it is a problem. It's this asymmetry of information. It's played in politics. It's played everywhere. If you throw out the FUD, the more engaging it is, the more the narrative becomes a fact in the mind of the deceived reader. It's why newspapers at times can publish a big bunch of shit, get called out, and then they do a retraction in the third page the next day in fine print. You know, it's a tale as old as time, and it's like crypto is no different. So, you know, save for just a few people like, you know, Anthony Sassano, DC investor, like many people on Reddit. And I know Reddit's really quiet, but PA7X1 is there. And they try to do FUD fighting over on our cryptocurrency or on X. And I find that a lot of the people with the most integrity are also willing to admit faults where they are. But they're too busy fighting all the blatant lies and FUD that just get thrown out there like a lawn dart in the dark. Not that I ever took one to the head twice as a kid, but you know what I'm saying. So yeah, it's like you can provide all the data. It's all right here. It shows you everything you need to know, activity everywhere. There's so many great, like Grow the Pie. There's a public good, you know. Look at Grow the Pie. Look at the charts. I mean, what do you want? Weekly engagement. You see, this goes back to 2022. I mean, that's 3 years, and it's up and to the right consistently. You look at what's the most busy, like, it's just, everything's right there. It's all, like, the people that pay for the headline are also doing the advertising for some other competing thing. It's like, you just follow the money. Everybody works for somebody. Somebody mentioned it. It was actually a detractor. It was kind of funny. They kind of, it was like a self-eating comment that they were saying all these kind of FUD things, but then they acknowledged that Ethereum is the most incredible, like, cohesive, public good, open source project in modern times. Like the way it is, when you're talking about changing engines at full speed on the interstate and going from proof of work to proof of stake, the chain never went down. And I mean, they were saying all the things that makes it amazing. You know, there's trade-offs to everything. At the end of the day, it's getting done. The roadmap's moving forward. Transactions per second are going up. Efficiency is 99.99% more efficient than Bitcoin to do exactly what Bitcoin does and more. And it's just, it's amazing to me. Like, it's all amazing when you step back and look at what's been achieved in 10 years. You know, unbelievable. It's so cool. It makes me giddy.
I love it when a plan comes together.
All right, good. Here we go. Tricky Troll raises a concern about the U.S. economy in the short to medium term. Oh, I remember this post. Okay, so I'll just read it. Tricky Troll is one of our moderators on our Ethereum, Duder158. I have upvoted Tricky Troll a total of 1,107 times. Thank you, Reddit Enhancement Suite. If you don't have Reddit Enhancement Suite, you should install that. It's so helpful. Do you know that? Have you guys ever messed with this on Reddit? Like, you can mouse over and look at somebody's history, and like, it's cool. And we got moderator toolbox, so it's a little different. But Reddit Enhancement Suite's how I do all the scoring for the Doots thing. If people make it on the daily, they get a point. It's nice. It's cool. All right, Tricky writes, so it seems pretty established that the U.S. economy is doing well. Doing well is a prerequisite for crypto and ETH doing well. All right, there's the premise. So I have a question. I will try to avoid the obvious politics, which we all know about and have our own opinions on. But there seems to be a lot of evidence of a growing issue arising from the ICE raids and the deportations, air quotes. Side note, this is a very misleading term since people are often being sent to places which aren't where they're from. Anyway, the fact of the matter is that a lot of tax-paying hard workers, some legally working there, many not, in the USA are suddenly disappearing. And there are many reports of businesses, particularly in agriculture and construction industries, being unable to find workers, with huge shortfalls in labor. In agriculture alone, this has projected to cost the U.S. literal hundreds of billions of dollars, since as many as 40% of ag workers are undocumented immigrants. Even if ICE doesn't remove every immigrant, many of them won't want to show up at work or places they spend their money for the fear of being kidnapped by federal agents or organized people posing as such. Not only will this directly decrease GDP, but a large amount of U.S. produced agricultural products and, of course, construction work is locally consumed. So a reduction in supply will increase costs, with a shortfall in production, the U.S. will have to import more. Don't forget the tariffs, which are still in limbo. So what are our takes on this with regards to the economy and how it impacts ETH price? Strictly speaking, economically, I find this very concerning. It will reduce GDP, and it will be highly inflationary. So long as Jerome Powell is the Fed chair, that inflation is not going to be left to run hot with lower interest rates. Typically, these structural inflationary things like this take 3 to 12 months to start to show up in the economy, and this has been going on for a month or two now. I don't know about you guys, but it's making me want to take some profits before the end of the year, regardless of what the price is doing. I worry that a big storm is brewing, and I think having some more stable assets on hand would be wise for weathering the storm. Reminder to please keep this on topic in the economic impacts relating back to ETH and crypto. What do you guys think? I'm kind of biting my tongue with this one because I feel like if you start talking about immigration, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because there's all kind of arguments. I could just say this: Tricky Troll does not live in a nation that is dealing with a massive influx of immigration and all the complications that does. So I think his perspective is skewed towards what kind of stuff is showing up on social media. So I mean, if we're going to talk strictly crypto and GDP and macro stuff, I feel like immigration is just one more thing in the soup of problems, and I feel like it's just not as big of an impact on crypto as maybe, for instance, the cost of food. It's probably more important to the cost of food than what it's going to do for impacting crypto. I think it's two separate things. That's just me.
I think, like you said, the soup. I think it's a part of the equation. But how much to say it's directly? I think it's very, very hard to say. Like, especially in this space. So I would say it's something to like pay attention to and its effects on larger GDP. But it to me, it's just one signal to look at amongst many.
I think regime change one day and not regime change in a place as big as Iran is a much more impactful market shaking thing. Because I'm old enough to remember what got us into 9/11, and I'm old enough to remember what got us into the first Gulf War, and what got us into the second Gulf War, and what got us out of Afghanistan, and what got us into Yemen. I mean, just like, it's just Iran is a big deal. That's a bigger deal than our immigration stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I eat too many crayons to know exactly how it impact. Like, I'm sure it impacts monetary policy.
Yeah.
So like quantifying what that impact is, again, I ate too many crayons. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm
more of a glue guy. Yeah.
Everything is kind of interconnected with everything, and I think it all kind of boils down to maybe just like the M2 monetary supply and the money printer, but everything is connected. We can say that with certainty.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's side effects, right? Where like you have a reduction in labor, and that could then, and increase the pressure to now find ways to adopt more automation. And like, there's so many things that not that I agree with these things, but it's like businesses kind of find a way to, get around things, and so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. There's.
I'm in California. I live in San Diego, so like it's definitely I've been seeing more border cars and like this things lately. Yeah.
You said you're in San Diego and you've seen what?
Yeah, San Diego, California. Yeah, which is California is super, like I think almost half Hispanic. Like, really California is one state where like everything seems bilingual. Like it's kind of which I think is cool. But yeah, it's definitely a big thing here. LA, they spin the whole thing and stuff. So yeah, crazy.
Yeah, we'll see long term. I mean, this was a pretty controversial post, I will say. I mean, yeah, there's so much to it. All right, let's see. Wow, Harrog got double dooted this week. Harrog introduces Airbender. Man, my kids made me watch The Last Airbender. It's so good. I'm going way off topic, but what is it? Airbender, where it was like the Fire Nation versus the Water Nation and all that. I'd never watched anime growing up. I'm such a boomer. I'm more of like a Wile E. Coyote, crayon eating kid like Matt. And so my son is like, Jay, you got to sit down and just watch this. And I was like, I'll do it. If he says it's worth watching, he's a high school kid, and he was not like big into anime, but he's like, dude, I was so impressed with like the quality of the storyline, all the ideas, the way they intertwine all the characters. I don't know. I mean, I thought it was stupid good. But anyway, Harrog introduces Airbender. ZK Sync's huge leap forward in ZK provers. ZK Sync just released Airbender, an open source general purpose ZK prover. It runs on a single, very high end professional GPU, an H100. Oh, that would make Logri the Bard cream in his chonies. Airbender is about a factor of 5 faster than the closest contender. It takes them 35 seconds to prove an Ethereum block. What? We can compare this to the SP1 release by Succinct Lab a month ago. They were able to prove Ethereum blocks in under 12 seconds, but needed 160 high-end consumer GPUs. The RTX 4090. Jeez, they had 160 4090s doing that? What? One of the criticisms of having to have provers in a future iteration of the Ethereum network was that they are a centralization vector. To be able to generate a full proof on a single GPU makes proving of Ethereum blocks so much more affordable for many more actors. Sure, an H100 is very expensive at around $30K, but the SP1 setup cost around $300,000 to $400,000. Yeah, I was going to say. That's more than an order of magnitude cheaper. ZK Sync Airbender has not yet reached the goal of real-time proving, but it is a pretty massive step in the right direction. I have no idea how far people in the ZK research space will be able to push the limits, but the speed in the last year has been crazy. This will not only help keep a snarkified mainnet in the future, but all ZK sync-based rollups, the Elastic Network, will be 10 times cheaper to prove. They say it is still in beta, so no idea when it will be used in production. Dude, do you remember this show MTV Cribs? Could you imagine like if it was like an Ethereum nerd's like, hey, come on into my house, let me show you something. And then they like open up this closet door. It's my H100 over here. I'm improving on the ZK thing. Like all of the women in the audience have like switched off to VH1 by that point. You know what I mean?
But not the robots. Not the robots.
Oh God, could you imagine crypto nerds on MTV Cribs just like flexing their 4090s like, yeah, babe. All right, last one.
Quickly on the Airbender, JT.
Yeah,
definitely would love to. I'm gonna drop a link for Wafa, but it's heavily inspired by Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's a project. It's my own personal project. But like, I love that you watch Avatar. That's
hey,
great.
throw that in a DM on Discord so you don't get botted, and I'll throw it, and then I could throw it in the Doots podcast chat, and so it'll actually show up on the screen. Maybe it's something that's typable. But yeah, if you want to do that real quick while we're here, and then we'll wrap up this live stream. So, Carrie, take me through that again. It's something you helped create? You're muted.
Yeah, well, it's something I created. Stands for Water, Earth, Fire, Air, and basically the idea is to create a symbiotic relationship between physical plants and digital creatures, with the initial focus on crafting a story similar to Avatar, Pokemon, etc. That kind of introduces the characters and the elements of Wafa, and then create an application around that, like a game using AR and stuff like that. So right now, like I kind of view it in 4 phases. It's the studio, the lab, growth, and then Wafa World, which is a theme park. And I always tell this, like anybody that I talk to about Wafa, I have one goal in life. Matt knows this. That's to open a theme park. It could have one roller coaster.
No way.
It could even just have. I don't care, but I want to open Wafa World someday, and it ties into the story. And yeah, the initial focus is the story.
I think we need to do a team building project at the barbecue in Denver. We get some PVC pipes and a trash can with some wheels, and that's your track. And we just like push you in the front yard of the Airbnb. Welcome to Wafa World, Eat Denver 2026.
Let's go. Yeah, like Wafa World starts as a pop up. Yeah, it starts as a hacker house.
You take it's like the origin story, and it's like we're building our first prototype today. It's just like a bunch of stuff from Home Depot, just like trailer wheels that are just like haphazardly glued on the bottom of a trash
That's what I used to do. I used to in my backyard dig holes, and like I got my neighbor's dad's golf club, and we'd play golf and like mini golf and stuff. This is my wheelhouse. Climbing on trees, creating weird contraptions, ramps to take our bikes off of.
Oh yeah. Yeah, every kid's got to have a bicycle ramp. That's for sure. But I found that like you can fit right through butterfly handlebars with tassels on them if you get the right approach, So,
the butterfly.
All right. Okay, I'll put this in the chat. And I'll put it up if you're on Discord, this is going in the Dudes podcast chat. And if you are out there on Twitter and X, you can see the link. I'll just say this so it'll move it up a little bit. Check the link above. There we go. So take a look at that. So I hope you get your theme park someday, man. You deserve it. You deserve it. All right. Astafari12. I love saying his name. He's a duder number 40 this week. Covers more crypto-friendly policy out of the U.S., this time for mortgages. The quote, U.S. Director of Federal Housing Bill, let me rewind. U.S. Director of Federal Housing, Bill Pulte, has ordered Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to, quote, count cryptocurrency as an asset for a mortgage, unquote. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, that was a big deal back in the early 2000s. Pulte has stated this decision was inspired by, quote, President Trump's vision to make the United States the crypto capital of the world, unquote. And there's a link to the CoinDesk. Astafari 12 continues, here in the EU, you might find resistance even selling crypto and using the proceeds to apply for a mortgage because they are tainted. I have read many having those issues in my I've read about many, I think is what they meant to say, having those issues in my country. Even if all they did was hold on Coinbase, people recommend going through Revolut or similar. Just going back to politics for 10 seconds. If there wasn't all this other mumbo jumbo going around in the highest offices of our land right now, the crypto angle still holds for this presidency and their cabinet, that they really are kind of like helping to lead us. But unfortunately, we have a clown driving the bus, and it's not fun. And I think a lot of people there's a lot of buyer's remorse, and there's also remorse, and then it's just like, shit. Can we just have like 24 hours of not tweeting, or just not bombing stuff, or just flying off over? Just please calm your tits, because like the crypto side of things is moving. It is moving. It's just clownish. It's just hard to keep up with just everything, left and right. But my God. Somebody needs to tell the guy the TV series is over. The election is over. Just lead and stop with the shit. You're not running again. So just stop, calm down, enjoy, try to make it smooth for everybody. We need a little bit of peace.
JT for president.
Shit. Fuck that. Sorry, I don't mean to say the F word. No.
I'll cover you because I'm finishing Sopranos, and I just feel like Tony Soprano's kind of just like Trump. Like he's this character. He's kind of he's a despicable person. He's not like he's not like it's I don't know. It's kind of funny with him. It's like at that same time he has qualities at times that people appreciate in context in relation to others. Yes. It's not like if you just isolate him as an individual, I don't think anybody's like, oh, this. But it's in the context of like, well, he has certain personality traits that other political leaders don't have that I wish they had, and he exudes. But he's really just a despicable person. Like, he's very narcissistic. Like he's always been that way. Like he's like, it's not even him. So I don't blame him. I blame people viewing him differently. Like he's never tried to like hide who he is.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no illusion. It's just assume that he's full of shit every second. Okay. That's all I got. You guys got anything else before we close this puppy down? All right.
I do. And I'll actually take the opportunity,
do it
now that we're all feeling icky talking about politics, to mention the idea of forget about nation states. That what's the word off of the where you're setting up the locations based on like watersheds and stuff like that. That's escaping me.
Bioregional.
Bioregions. That's how humans should be separated more so than by these made up whatever. And then I just wanted to quickly mention, so Greenpill Dev Guild within Greenpill Network within Regen Coordination. A little quick mention of Regen Coordination.xyz, and then the ethereum localism.xyz folks are also kind of part of that world, and I think that's really the meme right now. And then one interesting thing within Regen Coordination, which was GG23, was utilizing AI agents actually rewinding a little bit, utilizing common impact data standards to input impact accounting type stuff on KarmaGat, and then taking AI agents to review those activity reports to come up with a score for determining how to allocate funds, and then pairing that with human scores as well. So I think that's one thing that's interesting that has occurred recently within the capital allocation space within the public goods world. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that. I think that's cool.
There you go. Regen Coordination.xyz. Interesting. Very good.
And then there was the Regen Rio round, which was a local QF round in Brazil. The Zaza Lenimo, they did I think they're, I don't remember how intimately connected they are with government funds, but it's in Croatia. I think they're doing a QF round. Shout out my boy Luciano, another Greenpill New York City steward. He's in Japan right now, and they're working on a pilot of using flow state to allocate literal tax dollars. So this stuff is happening, and I think this is the meme, and I think it's going to continue being the meme. And it's, you kind of gotta, localism type stuff. These types of memes kind of speak a little bit more when you're talking about like people and communities. Then it's just like this broad global digital world. So a little bit rambly. I hope it made some sense, but yeah.
No, I want to piggyback off of that. It got me inspired to say some. I wasn't even thinking, but really, like, that's the reason I even joined this space, because I really believe with Ethereum localism, like traveling across the world, across the different chapters within Greenpill, with the different Regen communities, and helping to onboard people, set up their nodes. That's the thing. That's what I really dream of doing, because that's why I believe this technology is the most applicable, and where we're gonna feel the most return in value, and kind of seeing how it affects communities and people that need these tools. Because we want to change the whole world, but being able to change certain small communities has a large effect to then give you the energy to continue, then multiply that effect. So really want to shout out Ethereum localism. That's the reason I joined this space. And thanks for having us, JT. This has been great. I love you walking through, reading through everything like this, because I know Matt's more familiar. So for me, I've been on a couple, so I've heard you read through before, but it's nice. It's really cool, and you bring a lot of great energy and humor to how you go through things. It's awesome.
Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Hey, I appreciate it. We've been doing it for 116 episodes now, over 2 years, and it's just I love doing it, but I get to be kind of the frosting on the very large cake of people that help put it together. Number one, the community. This is all the community members. Everything that you read on Art, Ethereum, in the daily general discussion. It's this method of nominating them every day by Tricky Troll. And then I assign a point each time a person makes the daily list. And then the A word makes the weekly list. And then Hani Abu makes the website. And it's so cool to be in a time where we can all coordinate. We're doing it for pretty much free. We use whatever little money we get from Octant to just help pay the bills for the hosting. And it's allowed us to broadcast on 5 different channels. We're just all about the layer zero. Always have been. Nothing will change. Matt, Ben Broad mentioned in the chat about the EV Mavericks Public Goods Fantasy Football. What's that about?
Yeah. I've been kicking the can down the road for a minute, but basically the EV Mavericks Fantasy Football League at the end of the last season, we're kind of threw out the idea of should we incorporate some sort of public goods funding element to it? Our charitable bets, which is not particularly active anymore besides a charity fantasy football league, but it's been going on for 8-9 years at this point, and it's basically what it sounds like. So kind of trying to take some of those ideas and incorporate it into the EVM league. So there's a thread in the daily discussion, new EVM fantasy football, and I kind of just brain dumped a bunch of stuff. There's some ideas from the A word, from B Broad.
Today you did?
So there's a whole lot in it.
Is it today?
Say that again.
Is that?
I did it in I did it late last night. It's I got to do this before I'm on the Doots. It's got to happen.
Okay.
But you can. Yeah. So there's a bunch of different stuff about actual league setup, capital management, and then the governance side of things. So depends how overly complicated we want to make this, but I'm a nerd. There's nerds out there that are into this kind of mechanism design type stuff. So
is it in today's daily?
It's so it's in the thread. So if you hover over daily discussion, it's just more active threads, click see all, and then you the new EVM fantasy football thread.
Okay. You're gonna have to help a boomer out. What do you mean, thread?
Okay, so if you hover over, so in the Discord, My bad.
Oh, it's in the Discord. I thought you put it on the Reddit. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's my bad.
No, that's fine. You should throw it in Reddit, honestly. Both, like,
Yeah.
yeah, but we can coordinate on Discord. But yeah, getting people kind of interested in helping out, because I think that's fantastic. Yeah, just toss it in the Daily Journal. But yeah, if you're wanting to learn more about it, G said it's in the daily discussion on the EV Mavericks Discord. All right, so if you're listening to this on the YouTubes or the Twitch or the X platform, just the EV Mavericks is not an NFT gated Discord. We're open to anybody coming in. So if you look in the daily discussion, there's a thread going on right now about EVM fantasy football. Let me put it over here on my second screen. We might as well just take a look at it. Oh my gosh, Charlie Brown. Yeah. I'm the Charlie Brown of crypto. That's a long story. Very good. So this is an EVM fantasy football thread started by Fantasy Matt. And his flag, I suck at fantasy football. Yeah, this is good. So Matt was an expert professional at this stuff once upon a time. So yeah, we'll have to get that going. So it looks like you could pop an address in there, and yeah, here we go. So this is back in 2024. It's from last league. So, okay. So yesterday at 10:30, Matt wrote, "GM, end of last fantasy football season, there was some discussion about incorporating a public goods funding aspect to the EVM fantasy football league. I tried to brain dump all the different ideas kicked around so far, can mix and match different aspects, et cetera, et cetera." So why don't we come over there and check that out? Thank you to Next Level Fantasy, Matt, for that. And you know what? Thank you to Afo for being such a great guest today. Sorry, I got an overlay on you, my friend. Let me get that stuff off here. There we go. There we go. Awesome. And I appreciate you guys sticking around for so long and hanging out with us. And I wish you all the best. I know we're going to be in contact in the future. I'm sure you guys are going to be heading to Eat Denver, and I'm sure I am too. Last year, I smoked 16 pork butts in Kansas City and drove them all the way to Denver and fed quite a few people, and I want to do it again. So, all right. Well, with that, why don't we wrap it up? Thanks to everybody for subbing and smashing the bells around here. Stick around after the live stream, because we continue the party in the hotel lobby on Discord for a bonus hour of popcorn. It's a fun place to let loose when the parents aren't watching on YouTube. Hi, Mom. On behalf of ETH Finance and the EV Mavericks DAO, my name is JT, and Afo from the Greenpill Dev Guild, thank you so much. Cheers and big hugs from Kansas City.